Good afternoon. This is the Popper Scan video for Monday, March 20th. I know I've gotten a lot of questions from people saying, how do I use the Popper Scan that you send out? So I thought the best way would be to take this week's or Monday's list that we have, go through each play, show you what I'm looking for, and give you an idea how to use the Popper Scan plays. So this week we had a number of plays on it. First one was REVU. As you can see on the chart, the stock has gotten hammered over the last few days. Big bounce on Friday, which is why it has triggered the Pop Scan play. And just looking at the chart, I actually wish I'd seen this one on Thursday around 35 cents, because if I'd seen it around there, I probably would have had us buy some. Just based on the DD, it looks like it's a little bit oversold. Possible upside targets on this one, especially if it continues to pop on Monday, could be a move to 50 to 60 cents, and it does have the 20-day exponential up there at 66 cents. Now, what I would do on this chart is after it comes up on the Pop Scan, I would pull up here. We've got the free Yahoo Finance, and I would type in REVU. Check out the news to see why it possibly fell, and the one thing you'll notice is the sell-off began back on March 9th when they reported their earnings. Next thing I do is I go check out the key statistics. They've got a lot of debt, very little cash. What essentially looks like is a fund dump on this stock based on the earnings report. So the next thing I would do, I won't do this on every single one of the Popper Scan plays, just ones that look interesting. And we scroll down, check on the earnings report, sort of browse through it. Really looking at this, there wasn't a whole lot that jumped out to warrant the big sell-off in REVU, at least that I can see. Now, it does have a crap load of debt, and that is always a concern. But essentially what happened on this stock, it looks like a fund finally said, I'm done, I'm bailing. And typically these kind of stocks actually offer some decent upside. So this is definitely a stock to keep an eye on Monday. Would absolutely love if we get an early dip, possibly to the 36, 37 cent area, to jump in for a scalp with 2-cent stops. Now, the next play on the Popper Scan is HMPR. Let's check that out. And actually, one thing you'll notice on this week's Popper Scan, a lot of banks popping up on the Pop Scan. No real surprise. The banks have been in favor over the last few days and probably continue to do so as the Fed allows them to start paying dividends. Now, looking at this one, it got a break through the $1 level. Not the greatest chart, but, the banks have been doing really, really well. Let's check out the one-year chart here. One-year chart, not too bad. Possible inverse head and shoulders formation here. So if it does get a break through, the 105 area, might be worth a nibble on Monday with 119 target and $1 stops on this one. Next stock on the Popper list is BBX. Look, another bank stock. This one could get very interesting on a break through that 50-day moving average at 110, and you could see a 5 to 10 cent possible scalp on this one. RSI about to break 50. Nice potential chart going into Monday, especially with the banks doing well. The next stock, another financial, DRL. Let's check this one out. DRL beaten over the head over the last few days. Very nice bottom on this one. Had a big intraday spike on Friday. Ended up closing at $1.08. Let's check out what the average volume has been on this one recently. So we go back to Yahoo Finance. Type in DRL. Average volume about 694,000. Over the last few days, the stock has been trading. Yeah, volume really did spike on Friday. Definitely a possibility. Let's check. The other thing I like to check whenever I'm looking at the Popper plays is upcoming events, just to make sure we don't get blindsided by some earnings report. Already reported earnings a few days ago, which probably is the reason the stock sold off. We take a quick look at that. Actually, I really don't look at bank financials just because, so one thing, I don't take banks home overnight. If they are a play, they're an intraday play. The chart here looks like a very nice possibility for tomorrow. 110 break with maybe 3-cent stops on this one could give another pop up there to the 20-day exponential. So definitely one to keep an eye on for tomorrow. HAFC. Let's check out the chart on this one. Same sort of chart. Recent sell-off. Possible bottom on this one. 125 break could give a 5 to 10 cent pop on this one tomorrow or Tuesday. Check out the news on this one just to make sure we don't have earnings reports coming up. Company events. Earnings report not till April. Okay, so let's see how this one acts tomorrow. Next one on the scan, LVLT. Not bad. This is one we've traded a lot over the last few weeks. Looking like it could be putting in a possible bottom here. If we see another upside move in the NASDAQ on Monday, this is one that usually gives, 3 to 5 cents plus on a scalp size. So breakthrough 132 on this one tomorrow could be a trigger, for a scalp position here. CDII, again, beaten down quite a bit over the last few days. Last 2 days has been looking pretty attractive. A break of 130 here, and you've got next resistance up there at the 136 level. Now, one thing on these popper scan plays, these are stocks that I look, there's a whole universe of stocks. You can't look at 5,000 charts every night. So what I use the scans for is to look for certain criteria I like, just to narrow down the number of potential plays for the next day. Some days I don't play any of the stocks on the popper scan play. I play them intraday. This is to give you guys some homework to see if you can find charts that look good to you. Even if you don't play these popper scan plays, it definitely, the best way to learn how to trade stocks and how to chart is by looking at how certain charts react. And once you start to ID patterns that work for you, you'll look at a pattern like this and go, the last 4 times I've played a stock that looked like this, I've made 10 cents the next day. I'm buying this stock. Those are the reasons you look at as many charts as you look at. So here tomorrow, 130 break, could get, 6 cents upside to the 20-day exponential. Next one on the chart, or on this popper. MVIS. This one definitely high on the list, especially if we see stocks start to recover early this week. This is one we've played quite a few times, and it's gotten beaten over the head over the last few days. 20-day exponentials up there at 150. If the market is right this week, this is definitely one that could give us a 10, 15, possibly 20 cent upside scalp. ALXA, this is a biotech stock. It's expecting to refile with the FDA very, very soon, I believe, which is why you've seen the action starting to come in here. Could get very interesting on a 150 break, just like ADLR did for us a couple of weeks ago. So I would definitely be keying off a 150 break for a scalp entry on this one, with 155 and then 168 as possible targets here. And if I entered on a break of 150, probably put my stops 142 to 145 on this one. And if we just pull up ALXA just to see why it's been moving recently, quick scroll of the news, you can see on Wednesday they could say all eyes on it looks like momentum is coming into this stock. Earnings were out last week, so waiting for the refile news. Volume has been 2 times average, as you can see, over the last couple of days. So the dip buyers are coming in here, and that's the reason for the move. BRD is the next stock on the popper list. Gold plays haven't done very well in the sell-off over the last few days. And actually, there are a couple of gold plays on the scan today. GSS was also on it. I didn't include it on the list. Amex gold plays, they can do very well, or they can beat you over the head. I probably wouldn't get excited on this one unless it got a breakthrough, 157, 158. And I would keep really tight stops on this one, if at all I played it. AVII is on our list. Let's check that chart out. Nice chart here. Upside potential on this one would be the 20-day exponential and 200-day moving average. So you've got, 10 to 14 cent possible upside here. Possible entry 181, stops 179. All the indicators are nicely oversold. Stochastics looks great. Let us check out and see if there's any earnings to worry about. Scroll down here. Earnings were out last week. Nothing on the upcoming radar. Volume has been about average over the last few days, so this is another possible play, especially if the biotech stocks start to move this week. XING, this is another one of these rare earth stocks, and they started moving on Friday, and actually this chart looks pretty damn decent here. I don't like this stock or the company or these China stocks. They've been a lot of them with issues. So this is not a stock I would take home. But as you can see, this is an area that launched this stock previously. And actually, given that this is a rare earth metal play, let's see how the other biggies did on Friday. MCP was down. So what I would probably do is, if I wanted to play the move in XING, I would see how this MCP does. If this MCP starts to move with the chart that we have on Zing here, definitely could see a 10 to 15, 20 cent pop, especially if speculators come into this stock. And we do a quick check to make sure that there are no earnings to worry about early this week, just so that we have a heads up if we do play it to get out. And let's check out company events. No upcoming events. Volume been below average as well. So this is a stock has had a pretty steep sell-off straight from its 20-day exponential. Could offer some nice upside here over the next couple of days. So definitely one to keep an eye on. DSCO, this one was on the Popper scan on Thursday. Ended up giving what was it up on Thursday? 8%, 14 cent gain. A break through that 20-day exponential at 204 is probably where I would look to add a position on this one. One thing to keep in mind, which is what you would see right now if you went and checked to see what the upcoming events are. Earnings report is coming on Tuesday, and they're expected to give an update. As you can see, we will read the news and it would go blah, 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 status update on their drug with the FDA. So this is one that could see some nice follow through on speculation tomorrow, especially if the market is in an upward bias. Could get, on a break of 204, 10 to 15 cent scalp. Not a stock I would take into the earnings report, but we've got a reason for the move, so that is why it is on the pop scan list. BIOD, this is one I saw a couple of the guys in the chat room playing on Friday. Break of 220, could get a move to 230 on this one. And if we check out, make sure there's no earnings report like DSCO this week. We'll scroll down. Part of the reason it looks like the move, a delayed reaction to some phase 2 trials. Earnings not till May. How was volume on Friday? Volume really picked up on Friday, so someone could be moving into this stock. If I was to play stops on an entry of 220, I would keep them really, really tight. I'd be at the 50-day moving average, 213 to 215, a 220 break. Could get a move, especially if volume comes in again to the 235 area. Move is on the pop scan. Not the greatest chart. We tried this one. I mean, it'll all depend on how housing does. Not really one of my favorites going into this week, so it would be low on the radar. Of course, now that I've said that, watch it run big. URREDNN are, of course, on the pop scan today. Both uranium stocks. Targets would be the 20-day exponential, as I mentioned in the video. So hopefully that gave you guys an idea how to use the popper scans every night. How to sort them. One thing you could do is to place a separate watch list. Make some notes, ones that look, really attractive to you, and approach it that way. And again, if you've got any questions on this, definitely feel free to shoot me an email or ask me in the chat room. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the chat room tomorrow. I hope this helped. Good night.